The alarm started at 6 o'clock hours, station time. Not the emergency kind, mind you. No hull breaches, no reactor meltdowns, no sudden decompression events that would turn everyone into frozen meat popsicles. No, this was worse. This was the biological hazard system having what I can only describe as a complete nervous breakdown over the humans in Habitat Module 7. I'm Krivix, by the way. Station security. 6 years on this glorified space truck stop, and I thought I'd seen everything. Spice smugglers hiding contraband in their gill slits? Check. A Vorton trying to start an illegal fighting ring in Cargo Bay 3? Double check. That incident with the gelatinous blorb who somehow got drunk and absorbed half the medical bay? Let's not talk about it. But humans? They were new. Fresh additions to the galactic community, barely 3 cycles since first contact, and Command thought it would be brilliant to station 5 of them here as a cultural exchange program. What could possibly go wrong? Everything. Everything could go wrong. Krivix, get to Module 7 now. My supervisor, Thalna, screeched through the calm. Her mandibles were clicking so fast I could hear them over the audio feed. Never a good sign. The biohazard sensors are going insane. I grabbed my gear and scrambled through the corridors, my 4 legs eating up the distance. Other station personnel pressed themselves against the walls as I passed. Word travels fast on a space station, especially when the humans might be involved. When I reached Module 7, the scene outside was already chaos adjacent. 3 medical technicians stood by with containment equipment. Thalna was there, her exoskeleton practically vibrating with stress. The door panel flashed warning colors I didn't even know existed. What's the situation? I asked, checking my scanner. The readings were bizarre. Elevated temperature signatures, unusual chemical compounds in the air, rhythmic vibrations that suggested movement. We don't know, Thalna admitted, her voice tight. The system flagged multiple abnormalities 17 minutes ago. Extreme temperature fluctuations. Unknown aerosol compounds. Possible toxins. And... She paused, looking genuinely disturbed. Screaming. My blood went cold. Well, colder. I'm naturally cold-blooded, but you get the idea. Screaming. Are they under attack? That's the weird part. The screaming stops, then starts again. Different pitches. Multiple humans. But no other life signs in there except them. I stepped closer to the door, pressing my auditory organs against it. Sure enough, I could hear something. A strange whooshing sound. Then a voice, muffled but definitely human. Come on. 30 more seconds. You got this. Then another voice, much less enthusiastic. I hate you. I hate this. I hate everything. Feel the burn. I feel like dying. I looked at Thalna. She looked at me. We both looked at the medical team. They're killing each other, one of the medics whispered. Some kind of ritual combat. Should we breach? I asked. Before Thalna could answer, the door suddenly opened. We all jumped back, weapons raised, containment fields ready. A human emerged. Female. Name tag read Martinez. She was soaked. And I mean absolutely drenched, like someone had thrown her in a water recycler. Steam rose from her skin, which had turned an alarming shade of pink. She wore strange minimal clothing that clung to her wet body. In one hand, she held a cylindrical container that said, hydration or death. She stopped when she saw us. Looked at the weapons. Looked at the medical containment unit. Looked back at us. She said eloquently. Morning. Freeze. Thalna commanded. Identify the threat inside your habitat. Martinez blinked. Water dripped from her hair. Threat? What threat? The biological hazard. The elevated temperatures. The screaming. Thalna's voice hit a pitch that could probably shatter glass on 3 planets. Oh. Martinez's face did something strange. Her mouth curved upward, showing teeth. On most species, this meant aggression. On humans, I'd learned it meant amusement. That's just morning workout. Silence. Complete, total silence except for the station's ventilation system. You're what? I managed. Morning workout. Exercise. You know, physical training. She took a long drink from her container. We've been doing it every day for the past 2 weeks. Every day, the medic squeaked. You subject yourselves to this torture voluntarily? Daily? Well, yeah. Gotta stay in shape. Especially in lower gravity environments. Muscle atrophy is a real problem. Another human appeared in the doorway. Male. Taller. Name tag, Kowalski. He was also wet, also pink, also dressed in minimal garments. He noticed our group and waved. Hey guys. What's up? What's up? Thalna repeated, her voice strangled. What's up is that our systems think you're dying in there. Kowalski laughed. Actually laughed. The sound made my translator implant glitch for a second because it couldn't believe the auditory input it was receiving. Oh man, it does feel like dying sometimes. Especially when Briggs puts us through that cardio circuit. He clapped Martinez on the shoulder. Today was brutal. Tell me about it, Martinez agreed. My legs are going to hate me tomorrow. A third human emerged. Female. Smaller frame. Lee, on her name tag. She was doing something with her arms, stretching them behind her back in a way that should have dislocated several joints but apparently didn't. Good session, she announced. Who's up for breakfast? Me, said a fourth voice. Another male, broader build. Patterson stamped on his shirt. I'm starving. You're always starving, Lee pointed out. High metabolism. Can't help it. They were just chatting. Casually. While my entire security team stood there in full tactical formation, and the medical unit was 2 seconds away from declaring a station-wide emergency. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, I said slowly, holstering my weapon because I was starting to feel ridiculous. Every morning, you voluntarily gather together, increase your body temperature to dangerous levels, scream at each other, and engage in what our sensors classify as potential biological warfare. When you put it that way, it sounds way more metal than it actually is, Martinez said. But yeah, basically. The fifth and final human appeared. Female. Briggs, emblazoned across her terrifyingly pink shirt. She was the least wet of the group but somehow the most intimidating. She looked at our armed response team, looked at her fellow humans, and sighed. Did we trigger the station alarms again? Again. Thalna and I said simultaneously. This happened at the last station too, Briggs explained with the patience of someone who'd had this conversation before. And the training facility on Luna. And the transport ship. And she counted on her fingers. Pretty much everywhere we've been since joining the galactic community. Why didn't you warn us? Thalna demanded. We filed it in our cultural information packet, Lee said helpfully. Section 12, subsection 4, Daily Physical Maintenance Rituals. I pulled up the file on my datapad. Scrolled through page after page of human documentation. Found the section. Read it. This just says you engage in regular physical exercise, I said. It doesn't mention the screaming. That's motivational encouragement, Briggs corrected. And it's not screaming, it's energetic verbal reinforcement. You were shouting about burning and dying. Well, yeah. Your muscles burn when you push them. And it feels like dying sometimes, but that's how you know it's working. She said this like it was the most reasonable thing in the galaxy. Patterson nodded enthusiastically. No pain, no gain. Your species actively seeks pain. The medic looked like he might faint. For recreation. For health, Martinez corrected. Humans evolved as endurance predators. We're built to move, to chase, to push our bodies hard. If we don't, things start breaking down. So every morning, I said, trying to wrap my brain around this, you intentionally stress your bodies to the point where our medical sensors think you're suffering from multiple emergencies. Pretty much, Kowalski confirmed cheerfully. The heat signature alone was off the charts, Thalna added, still looking suspicious. What were you doing in there? High-intensity interval training, Briggs said. 20 minutes of cardio, 15 minutes of strength training, 10-minute cool down. Cool down. I repeated. You were all radiating heat like small fusion reactors. Yeah, that's why we cool down. Bring the heart rate back to normal, let the body temperature drop gradually. Lee was now stretching her legs in ways that made my joints ache just watching. Otherwise you feel sick. And the aerosol compounds, the medic asked weakly. Probably sweat, Patterson said. Sweat. Yeah, you know. Perspiration. Thermal regulation through liquid excretion. Every single one of us took a step back. You were secreting liquids. Thalna sounded horrified. It's how we cool down, Martinez explained. Our bodies produce moisture that evaporates from our skin, taking heat with it. Super efficient cooling system. You turned your habitat into a sauna, I said flatly. Well, when you work out hard enough. Kowalski shrugged. Temperature goes up. Unbelievable, Thalna muttered, already typing furiously on her datapad. I'm filing an incident report. And updating the human information database. And possibly requesting hazard pay. Hey, we're not hazardous, Lee protested. You made the station think you were dying. Thalna shot back. But we weren't actually dying, Briggs pointed out reasonably. We were just exercising. Can you please, I said, feeling a headache forming behind my eyes, please put a notice on your door when you do this? So we don't mobilize the entire emergency response team. Sure thing, Martinez agreed easily. Sorry for the confusion. They filed past us, still dripping, still radiating heat like walking furnaces, chatting about something called protein intake and muscle recovery. The door to their habitat remained open, and the wave of hot, moist air that rolled out made everyone except the humans recoil. Humans, Thalna said with feeling, are insane. They did warn us in the packet, I pointed out, even though I agreed with her completely. Section 12, subsection 4 is clearly inadequate. We stood there for a moment, processing what had just happened. The emergency teams began to pack up their gear, muttering among themselves. I could already hear the rumors spreading through the station network. My comm chirped. Station command. Wonderful. Krivix, report. What's the situation in Module 7? I looked at the retreating humans, who had reached the cafeteria entrance and were loudly debating the merits of something called scrambled eggs versus omelets. False alarm, sir. The humans were just being humans. Explain. How did I explain this? How did I put into words that humans voluntarily tortured themselves every morning and called it healthcare? They engage in ritualistic physical stress as a form of biological maintenance, sir. It's apparently normal for their species. A long pause on the other end. Normal. Yes, sir. Humans consider self-inflicted suffering normal. Apparently so, sir. Another pause. Longer this time. I need a drink. Krivix, monitor the situation. If they start doing anything else that seems like mass suicide, check if it's just another human thing before sounding the alarm. Yes, sir. The comm went dead. Thalna looked at me. 6 more months until rotation. 6 more months, I agreed. From the cafeteria, we heard enthusiastic shouting. Yo, they have the good coffee today. Finally. Yesterday's batch tasted like recycled coolant. Thalna's mandibles clicked rapidly. I'm updating their file to include a warning that humans have opinions about their morning beverages. Probably wise, I said. Just another morning on Station Helix Gamma. Just another morning with humans. We had no idea what was coming next. 3 days after the workout incident, I thought maybe, just maybe, we'd reached some kind of understanding with the humans. They'd put a sign on their door, morning exercise in progress, please don't panic. Station Command had issued a memo explaining that elevated biosigns from the human quarters between 0600 and 0700 hours were normal and did not constitute an emergency. I should have known better. The call came at 0615 on a Tuesday. Station time doesn't really have Tuesdays, but the humans insisted on maintaining their Earth calendar, and somehow their terrible naming conventions had infected the rest of us. Krivix, we have a situation. It was Thalna again. Her voice had taken on a quality I can only describe as resigned exhaustion. Module 7. Again. What now? I was already moving, grabbing my equipment out of habit. Are they exercising too hard? Did someone actually die this time? No. Worse. They're singing. I stopped mid-stride. They're what? Singing. Loudly. The acoustic sensors are registering it as a potential sonic weapon. You're joking. I wish I was. Get down here. When I arrived, there was already a small crowd gathered outside the human habitat. Not security this time, thank the void. Just curious station personnel who apparently had nothing better to do than gawk at the strange aliens. And they were strange. Through the door, which someone had propped open, I could hear the most bizarre sounds. Multiple human voices, all making different noises simultaneously, somehow creating a pattern that wasn't entirely unpleasant but definitely triggered my fight or flight response. What is that? Asked Velrin, one of the cargo handlers. His ear frills were vibrating with confusion. Cultural expression, Thalna said tiredly. Apparently. I stepped closer and peered inside. All 5 humans were there, engaged in their morning ritual of voluntary suffering. But this time, they were making coordinated vocalizations while doing it. Martinez was running on some kind of machine that went nowhere, her feet pounding in rhythm. She was also producing melodic sounds from her mouth. Gonna fly now. Flying high now. Kowalski was lifting heavy objects repeatedly, his face contorted with effort, but he too was vocalizing. Don't stop. Believing. Lee hung from a bar, pulling herself up and down, adding her own sounds to the mix. Stronger than yesterday. Patterson was on the floor doing some kind of rapid up and down movement with his body while simultaneously creating bass sounds. Eye of the tiger, thrill of the fight. And Briggs, standing in the middle of this madness with a small device in her hand, was controlling the background instrumental sounds while shouting encouragement. Come on people. Feel the energy. 3 more minutes. They're all making noise at the same time, Velrin observed. Doesn't that make communication impossible? They're not trying to communicate, Thalna said. They're just doing that. For fun. For motivation, I corrected, remembering the previous incident. Humans are very big on motivation. The music, if you could call it that, reached a crescendo. The humans pushed harder, moved faster, made louder sounds. My translator was having fits trying to process all the input simultaneously. Something about champions, survivors, and being titanium. Then, as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The humans collapsed in various states of exhaustion, breathing heavily, covered in their disgusting sweat secretions. Great session. Lee gasped out. My favorite playlist, Patterson agreed, still lying flat on the floor. Music makes everything better, Martinez added, finally stepping off her nowhere machine. Briggs looked up and noticed us watching. She waved. Morning everyone. Sorry, was that too loud? The acoustic sensors thought you were testing a sonic weapon, Thalna said flatly. Oh. Briggs had the decency to look slightly embarrassed. We can turn it down. What were you doing? I asked, genuinely curious now. That coordinated vocalization thing. Singing along to workout music, Kowalski explained, grabbing his water container. Gets you pumped up, you know. Makes the pain more bearable. You make coordinated sounds to distract yourself from the self-inflicted pain. Velrin's ear frills had stopped vibrating and started drooping in confusion. Exactly. Martinez beamed like he'd just solved a complex equation. Your species is bizarre, Thalna declared. We prefer unique, Lee said cheerfully. The crowd was dispersing now that the show was over, but I noticed several station personnel lingering, discussing what they'd witnessed. The humans had become something of a curiosity on the station. Some found them fascinating. Others found them terrifying. Most found them exhausting. We're updating the sign, I told Briggs. Exercise and musical performance in progress. Fair enough, she agreed. I was about to leave when Patterson called out. Hey Krivix, you ever tried working out? Every instinct in my body screamed no. But curiosity, that terrible thing that had gotten me into security work in the first place, made me pause. Why would I voluntarily cause myself pain? Because it feels amazing afterward, Patterson said with disturbing enthusiasm. The endorphin rush alone is worth it. Endorphins? Chemical reward system, Lee explained. Our brains release pleasure compounds after intense physical activity. Makes us feel happy. I stared at them. Your brains reward you for suffering. Evolution is weird, Martinez said with a shrug. You want weird? Kowalski added. Some humans do this for hours. Marathons. Ultramarathons. Ironman competitions. There are people who run 100 miles just because they can. 100 miles? Thalna had returned to the doorway. That's not exercise, that's a death march. Tell that to the 70-year-olds who complete them, Briggs said. 70. I did the conversion in my head. That was ancient for humans. Your elderly engage in this behavior. Some of the most intense athletes I know are over 50, Patterson confirmed. Age is just a number. This conversation was giving me the kind of headache usually reserved for dealing with interdimensional mathematics or Vorton poetry. I'm leaving, I announced. Before you tell me something else that breaks my understanding of biology. Wait, Martinez called. Seriously though, you should try it sometime. Low intensity, easy stuff. Might surprise you. The day I voluntarily make myself sweat is the day I resign from security, I shot back. They all laughed. That human sound that could mean anything from genuine amusement to impending violence, though I'd learned to tell the difference. Mostly. I made it halfway down the corridor before my comm chirped again. Krivix, came the voice of Jorna, the station's head of medical. I need you in medical bay too. What's wrong now? Nothing's wrong. I need your perspective on something. Human-related. Of course it was. Medical Bay 2 was quiet when I arrived. Jorna stood at her workstation, multiple screens displaying various data streams. She was a Quellan, which meant she had 6 eyes and could process visual information faster than most species could think. Look at this, she said without preamble, gesturing to the screens. This is human baseline health data from their first week on station. And this is current data. I looked. The numbers meant nothing to me. What am I seeing? Improvement. Across every single metric. Cardiovascular efficiency up by 12%. Bone density increased. Muscle mass increased. Neural activity patterns showing enhanced cognitive function. Even their immune systems are performing better. From the exercise? I asked. From the exercise, she confirmed. In 3 weeks, they've measurably improved their physical condition through nothing but self-imposed stress. That's actually impressive. It's fascinating, Jorna corrected. Most species maintain baseline health and slowly decline with age. Humans can actively improve themselves through controlled damage and recovery cycles. You're saying they hurt themselves to become stronger? Essentially, yes. They stress their systems, their bodies adapt to handle that stress, they increase the stress level, their bodies adapt again. It's a continuous cycle of breakdown and rebuilding. I thought about that. Like upgrading station systems. Exactly like that. Except the station is their body and they're both the engineer and the infrastructure. No wonder they're so strange, I muttered. They're basically in a constant state of self-modification. There's more, Jorna said, pulling up another screen. I've been researching human history. Do you know what they used to do before they had modern civilization? Hunt. Gather. The usual pre-industrial stuff. They ran down their prey. Literally chased animals until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. Humans can't run as fast as most predators or prey, but they can run longer than almost anything else. They would just follow their target for hours, sometimes days, until it couldn't run anymore. The image forming in my mind was horrifying. They're endurance predators. Exactly. And that's what the morning exercise is maintaining. That ancestral ability to just keep going when everything else stops. That's terrifying. That's humanity, Jorna said with something that might have been admiration. They're physically unimpressive compared to most predator species. Not the strongest, not the fastest, no natural weapons. But they never stop. They just keep going. And going. And going. My comm chirped. Thalna. Krivix, the humans are doing something in the cafeteria. What now? They're challenging other species to something they call a plank competition. I looked at Jorna. She looked at me. What's a plank? I asked Thalna. Apparently you hold your body rigid in a push-up position for as long as possible. Patterson just held it for 8 minutes. 8 minutes. Velrin tried and lasted 12 seconds before his arms gave out. Are people getting hurt? No, but the humans are laughing a lot and everyone else looks deeply uncomfortable with their own physical limitations. I sighed. I'll be right there. The cafeteria had turned into some kind of impromptu sporting event. A crowd had gathered in a circle, watching as Lee demonstrated the plank position to an increasingly horrified group of non-humans. You just hold it, she was saying. Core tight, body straight, don't let your hips drop. A brave Quellan technician attempted it. Lasted maybe 20 seconds. Good effort. Lee encouraged. Way better than your first try. There was a first try? I asked Thalna. Apparently this has been going on for 40 minutes. The humans have been teaching anyone willing to learn. They call it casual fitness education. Martinez spotted me. Krivix. Want to try? Absolutely not. Come on. It's good for core strength. Helps with stability in low gravity. She wasn't wrong about that. Station gravity was kept at 0.7 standard to accommodate multiple species. Core strength was useful. But I wasn't about to humiliate myself in front of half the station. I'll pass. Scared? Kowalski teased. Smart, I corrected. Briggs stepped forward. How about this? We'll do a demonstration. Show you what humans consider a real challenge. This should be good, Thalna muttered beside me. All 5 humans got into position. Someone started a timer on a display screen. The crowd went silent. 1 minute passed. They held perfectly still. 2 minutes. No movement except breathing. 3 minutes. A few aliens in the crowd tried to mimic the position and failed within seconds. 4 minutes. Patterson was starting to shake slightly. 5 minutes. Lee's breathing had gotten heavier. 6 minutes. Martinez closed her eyes, concentrating. 7 minutes. Kowalski made a sound between a grunt and a growl. 8 minutes. Patterson collapsed with a groan. I'm out. 9 minutes. Lee dropped. My arms are dead. 10 minutes. Martinez fell. Okay, that's my limit. 11 minutes. Kowalski gave up. Briggs, you're inhuman. 12 minutes. Briggs was still holding, her face red, sweat pouring off her, but absolutely refusing to quit. 13 minutes. 14 minutes. At 15 minutes, she finally lowered herself to the ground. The cafeteria erupted in stunned applause. Not because anyone really understood what they'd witnessed, but because it was impossible not to be impressed by that level of stubborn determination. And that, Briggs said, breathing hard, is why you train. I'm adding this to the human information file, Thalna said. Warning, humans possess unreasonable physical determination and will attempt to spread it to other species. Hey, we're just trying to be helpful, Patterson protested from his position flat on the floor. You're trying to make everyone else feel inadequate, I corrected. No, Lee said seriously. We're trying to show you what's possible. Every species has potential. You just have to push past the comfortable part to find it. Humans and your philosophy, Thalna sighed. It's not philosophy, Martinez said. It's just facts. Bodies adapt. You stress them, they get stronger. Works for everyone. Not everyone wants to be stronger, a voice called from the crowd. That's fair, Briggs acknowledged, finally standing up. But everyone should have the choice. Over the next few weeks, something strange happened. A few brave aliens started joining the humans for their morning sessions. Modified workouts, species-appropriate exercises, nothing too intense. But they came. Velrin was there most mornings, working on what the humans called flexibility. A Quellan engineer started joining for the low-impact cardio. Even Thalna showed up once, though she refused to admit it was exercise and claimed she was just monitoring for safety violations. The humans had somehow turned their bizarre morning ritual into a station-wide phenomenon. Not everyone participated, but everyone knew about it. The weird thing was that those who did participate seemed happier. More energetic. Less complaining. It was deeply annoying how effective voluntary suffering turned out to be. I still refused to join. I had my dignity to maintain. But I did start taking the long way to my duty stations. More steps. More movement. Just maintaining efficiency, I told myself. Not exercise. Definitely not exercise. Martinez caught me doing extra corridor laps one morning. She didn't say anything. Just smiled that human smile and gave me a thumbs up, whatever that meant. Still not exercising, I called after her. Whatever you say, Krivix, she called back. Humans. Absolutely insufferable. But also, somehow, good for station morale. I'd never admit it out loud, but having them here had made things more interesting. Dangerous, confusing, occasionally terrifying, but interesting. As I headed to my next shift, passing the human habitat where encouraging shouts and terrible music were already emanating, I found myself thinking that maybe, just maybe, the galaxy was better off with humans in it. Even if they did insist on torturing themselves every morning and calling it healthy.